Good afternoon, thanks Wally. It'll be a very small bit of wisdom, thank you. Okay, couple of themes first. Persistence. Have to give that award today to Sarah. Christ, I don't know how many phone calls, how many text messages I've tried to dodge. Right, you have to blame her, I'm here. Consistence, Peter Hall. Every phone call, ISC, HGPs, he's consistent. Existence, David Hill, he's everywhere. Every committee, every process. Resilience, Lloyd Hick. At the moment, obviously, gone through a fair bit of shit because of the water at home, but went through an enormous amount of pain and personal aggro about Cattle Australia being here. It's a really bold move for an organisation to vote itself out of existence. It clearly hasn't happened across the ag space very much. Hence, we have 257 registered bodies representing agriculture at a national level. There are 21 horticultural councils, almost as one per variety of apple, representing their interests. So to have done what Cattle Council Australia did was a significant step, and ideally it's an opportunity that the new company, Cattle Australia, is not going to waste in terms of building a persistent, resilient, consistent and existence to represent the 42,000 cattle producers across this landscape. Recognise General President Georgie and Cattle President Paulie for being here today. And I also understand that this part of AgForce being the CQ was the strongest advocate and supporter for the change of the CCA model to turning into the CA model. So thank you for that groundswell and heartfelt support. We won't achieve everything that you're going to ask for, I promise you. But we're going to have a crack at what we can and what we believe in and what are the priorities and the heartfelt priorities, not the grab priorities. You've actually got to think of Cattle Australia as the way we think of government, maybe like us a little more, but there's local government, there's state government and there's federal government. And our issues management should ideally be along the similar platforms. We're not here about your road weight limits on your trucks. We're not here about the speed over the level crossings. What Georgie touched on before, and that's where we've got to overcome any fear or waste of energy in terms of duplication. But we are here to bang the drum on biosecurity. We are here to bang the drum on market access, the national levels. We're here to reinforce Animal Health Australia, to make sure it's got the funding to provide the training in the event of the biosecurity or the challenges out there. They actually have 6 trainers to cover the whole of Australia, 42,000 production units to be trained in emerging or emergency animal disease management. It's just not going to happen at the speed that it needs to happen. So ideally, we shouldn't be all trying to waste too much energy in duplication. The one thing I learned, I've spoken about earlier today, is I asked the infamous Joe Ludwig, when Minister for Agriculture, back in about 2010, 2011, of how he dealt with industry. And he unashamedly sat there. He's not the first person to have done it since. He said, I ask industry for consensus, and then I will act. It generally buys me about 9 to 10 months breathing space, because we all come at him. Think about how the union movement work, industrial unions. They don't attack from 15 fronts. They come in with one with 15 soldiers in. That's how it works at level. The meat processing industry is troubled because its 2 biggest players are not members of its association. So there's no minister going to make a decision until 3 parties have actually banged on his door to come and talk to him. So that buys him time. Buys time to make a decision. So we know we hear it every time, every political campaign. Disunity is death. But duplication is a waste of horsepower, a waste of energy, and a waste of resources. The classic case of the delineation, federal state, is what George Ronnie just said. Brands and earmarks. Absolutely, purely a state matter. We can have a voice for you if needed, but it's not a tune that's singing across Australia's cattle production areas. It's very much a Queensland thing. It hasn't been branded in Tasmania, South Australia, New South Wales, or the West forever. You couldn't sell one down there at a clearing sale. They wouldn't know what it's for. Maybe they think it's for putting on a wool pack. So, but they're the things, so we want to be that level. I thank Lloyd for the process. I probably should have thanked him though for giving us an absolutely clean desk and a clean cupboard when we got there. So the changeover was quite swift. I think we were advised on the Monday. We had a beer to celebrate it Monday night. We had a board meeting Tuesday where we were given the great news that the CEO was going away for a bit. When I asked how long, thinking long weekend maybe, retired, he said 5 years minimum. Tick. Any other news I probably should know at the first board meeting? You're due in the Supreme Court of Queensland 10 o'clock tomorrow morning for a directions hearing over a challenge to the Constitution. Okay. Okay, another one. Tick. Anything else that would really help us set the pathway forward? Oh, a third of the policy staff have resigned. But that's okay. So the easy part is we didn't pick up any bad legacies or any issues. We had a clean table and a clean start. But there was also a new board elected across Australia. 7 people effectively hadn't been in a room together before, in a formal or informal process. So it was to start again first up, was to feel each other out. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What are their passions? Why are you here? Why do you want to be here? And then fortunately it was Christmas and New Year and summer break. We've come together. We've had to focus on getting a CEO. And it's obviously public now. What I'm thrilled about was the horsepower of the candidates was unbelievable. The worst part about the process is a former employee put my mobile number on the bottom of the job ad. So about 107 phone calls later, of which there were probably the top 50, which we shrunk it down to, but we're really, really excited about the people who wanted to put their hat in the ring this time round. I didn't ask why, but there's a whole change in the mood out there of people who wanted to engage. And quite clearly, any of the final 4 would have done our industry proud and justice and been a workhorse. But at any rate, there is only one winner, and Luke Bowen, who you may or may not know, Luke was chosen to become the CEO and starts on the 17th of April. And he has a proud history of born West Australia, but the NTCA grew 2 arms and legs and a foot taller up there, particularly through the live export crisis. And now for the last 7 years has been running ag and rural development for the Northern Territory government, which potentially is of a different colour to what Luke would probably normally aspire to follow. So once we get him in place, we can start to do the transactional matters that Cattle Australia is meant to do. But if we try and do it in a hurry, that may please somebody, but it's not going to build a foundation that is sustainable or enduring. The other thing we've done is we've divided the directors up and we've made them buddies and or mentors of a particular area within the organisation and for those staff. Because what probably is unheralded and not spoken about but should be celebrated or demonised in fact is Cattle Australia represents industry on 52 committees. So stretched thin is an understatement. So the reality is, A, we have to prioritise our effectiveness over attending every dog and pony show that occurs across our industry. Now there are things like issues management which are critical and you all sit and seethe in the corner if I don't deal with it. But my classic one at the moment, because I can pick on David Hill, the priority and importance of the Red Witchweed Committee. Now, there were 7 directors, including the chair, that had never heard of the bloody thing. But it was important, we had a committee for it and a process for it. That's an example of everything. We have an issues committee across everything that is actually taking away, potentially, from the main game of what we're going to try and achieve. First thing we have to do, after we've got the CEO, is now start to get the new Policy Council in place, which is a whole new process of national elections across the 15 regional areas as defined within the MLA. So not only do we have to perform the process of recruitment, encouragement and election, we have to get a message out there as to why it would be of value of people to want to give up their time to come and work voluntarily, of course, within this new body. Those 15 people will then be supported by representatives from the SFOs. So Policy Council of 23 to bring up the priorities from the grassroots for the board to have consideration on. That is a process that I've left till the CEO gets in, because that sounds like an awful amount of work to try and be achieved. As a result of that, the existing Policy Council that's sitting in within the remit that was supposed to go till the end of June, they're all looking out to get a really good sweetheart letter saying, would you hang in there for another 3 months, please, and keep batting on and keep bringing the industry matters to us and helping to assist through those. Because it's not just the Policy Council, each of those councils also is effectively on some of these subcommittees to work through. I mean, we're on the Murray-Darling Basin Committee, which is quite worried at the moment. Is it like the rest of Australia sits under 6 feet of water? We're arguing that it's going to starve water and starve rural communities. It's a really hard argument, but we've got to go through that process. We're going through the valuation and compensation process under the ADRA for hopefully the unlikely event of an emergency animal disease outbreak. There's some still strong arguments to go. Rachel O'Brien is representing our sector through there, and it's not easy. We're sitting down there and I'm looking for sympathy, but I spent 4 hours arguing over what is going to be the market value of a hippopotamus, because it will have to be destroyed. And will that be freight included or freight free? Well, there's not a lot in Australia, but these are issues that you actually, if you go on the journey, you have to be a part of to go through the end. And we're there to the end because we are trying to establish that in the event of a smash, that our cattle get valued the day of the smash. There are people out there who want to be valued over time, but it won't take over time to go from hero to zero in terms of market. So the argument has not been won, but the argument has certainly started, and the swords will be sharpened, because this is one. The whole thing was to encourage early notification, put your hand up, I've got it. But the problem is at the bottom of the chain is 30 days later your cattle may be valued at zero. So it's a real challenge for industry to get over that, but Cattle Australia will be in there boxing on. In addition to the existing board members of the Policy Council, we have the right to appoint 2 other directors as the board sees fit. Now that was looking on a skills matrix model. Now the irony is the national election that was held to form the board of Cattle Australia, you got a multitude of skills mix by default. So it's really going to be interesting to work out. We're not going to put bums on seats just because it says we can have some. If there isn't a skill missing or a skill enhancement, we'll just got to stay the same as we are and look forward and keep that opportunity up our sleeve. The ISC, Cattle Australia currently has a strong commission, and under the auspices of RMAC, we've written to the chair of MLA, we have the chair of ISC, interested committee, to ask for it to be fully independent of MLA as standalone, as was done through the meat review, that all we moved on from very, very quickly. So we think it should be independent body with an independent chair and skills-based director to go through. Live export, we've obviously got to sharpen our knives for that and stay at the forefront. whilst we're saying it's untouched, cattle are still loved, this government also said that about the superannuation process, but 1 year in we changed it. So we really have to keep, there's no assumption that cattle, till we stand up again, that cattle are safe. They're safe for the present, but that doesn't mean they're safe for the future. There's no science based in this decision either. It was bad, we have to admit. It caught the headlines and caught attention because it was bad. It's been fixed. So you can't undo the past, but we've got to sell the future. Recognising, hopefully also, that the government mandate isn't. Bill Shorten went to the election with a mandate of shutting live export. The only happened was Bill lost his job, thankfully. So it's very hard for the Albanese government to claim the same mandate, particularly when it has 38% of the vote. So 62% of Australia doesn't agree with that particular platform. Whether that pertains directly to live export, we can't say, but we'll stretch everything for the purposes of as we can. Now I'm going to leave it open to questions in a minute because you probably want to hammer me, whereas I want all the other people to come out on stage and have a fair crack. But what I want to do first, please, is a tiny little exercise. I'd like everybody to stand up, please. This isn't some team building funky show off, this is process. Okay. Those in the room who have 10% less cattle this year than the last 2 years, please sit down. Those people who have the same number of cattle this year as last year, please sit down, or expect to have. Those people who expect to have 10% more cattle this year than last year, please remain standing. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we've got 1, 3, 5, 7, 10, 12, 14, 15. Okay, so 15 people in the room expect their cattle herd to be 10% more than last year. But we have an industry number that says our herd is going to be somewhere between 15 and 20% bigger than last year. Now I did this exercise in Brisbane about 3 weeks ago at a nutrient conference, and we only had 6% of those agents whose clients have an increase in cattle herd in the next 12 months. So I really, off topic, wish to challenge where these 28.8 million cattle are. So thank you for your observance.
Thanks, David. We're probably going to get a bit pushed for time, but we'll allow one question to you first in, and I'll get the panel up here and we'll start the process. I forgot that, well, I didn't forget, I did it deliberately, but when David walks up here, everyone thinks, when David walks up here, everyone thinks, oh, here's David's here, processor. And I just wanted people to hear him speak first before I add a few words along the matter. I've been involved with David for a couple of years now in the Policy Council at Cattle Council of Australia. And he has been there with a dual hat on. He knows the processing industry. But he also comes from a place called Sandy Creek at Kilcoy and has a jeep cattle. And the great thing about David was he is very good at getting to the nut of the problem. When you have an argument, he's very good at trying to get you back on track or actually teasing out the issue that no one wants to talk about. So with that sort of experience and building and going on to chairing Cattle Australia, the great thing about that new Cattle Australia board is it's not just cattle producers. There's a very diverse crew of people on there that are very experienced across all facets of industry. And that's where I think Cattle Australia is probably going to shine. The fact that we have a different level of expertise there, above that level across industry aspects. And if anyone can do it, I hope it's going to be that group of people. Enough accolades, David, you'll end up floating. One question, and then I'll let David sit down. I hope it's a good question so we can tease things out afterwards. And while people are going through their introductions this afternoon, think about some questions asked these people. We don't often get the opportunity, but the experience we'll have sitting up here this afternoon, so hit them with whatever you need to get some information flowing into something. So is there a question off the cuff from anyone?
You'll have one more.
I think he flattened, doesn't he? I've got to be a bit cautious how I ask this one.
No, you're not. What are you going to ask you about is membership? You're going to ask about membership fees? Well, he's a humble, polite sort of guy.
I
Okay.
wasn't going to ask you about fees.
The challenge is, are we fighting for members? The easy answer is no, we're fighting for members' priorities, challenges, opportunities. Do we both need your membership funding in some way? Yes. We can't do it for nothing. You, though, will make the decision of to where you need to have your investment to get the best bang for your dollar. We're going to bang on nationally anyway, but you have more matters at heart, so state-wise, that you need to have best consideration for. But I want to earn that you want to actually fund us both. And that's our job. You're getting value for money at Agforce or you wouldn't be here. Now I've got to show you that Capital Australia will give you additional value on an actual platform. Now your question.
Thanks, Dave. Glad we got that one out now. If you could grab a seat, David, Josie, David, Dane, if you could all come up.